It's amazing when you really think about it, the companies, the organizations that have become so, I don't know, essential to the world we live in. I mean, we see their products every day.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We see their names everywhere, but do we really understand how they got there?
Right, right. The whole story, the ups and downs, things that didn't work out, the unexpected turns.
Today, we're diving into one of those giants, a name you see on cars all over the place.
Toyota, yeah.
Toyota Motor Corporation.
It's so interesting because when people think of Toyota, they think cars, obviously, worldwide.
Yeah.
But their story goes way beyond just manufacturing.
It's about innovation, for sure.
Adaptation, yeah, absolutely. And a whole philosophy that's actually had a huge influence on tons of industries, actually.
Yeah, and to really get into this, we've gathered, a ton of material, a huge amount of stuff about Toyota.
Oh, yeah.
I've got info on the founder, like their whole corporate history, and then all this fascinating stuff about their racing, their motorsport activities.
Oh, yeah, they've done it all, haven't they?
From, GAZOO Racing, ripping it up in rallies and endurance races.
That's what got me hooked, to be honest.
To Formula One. They were there for a while.
Tried their hand at the big leagues, you could say.
Dakar Rally, the absolute brutality of that race.
Yeah, it's incredible what those drivers and those cars go through.
Even Super Formula in Japan.
Super competitive.
Plus, we've got all the technological leaps they've made over it's decades, really.
So much to unpack.
Our mission, if you want to call it that, is to weave all of this huge amount of information into a story that makes sense, that you can follow and really understand.
Exactly. How did Toyota get from, where they started to where they are now? It's such a journey.
We'll be hitting those key moments, the big decisions, and those underlying principles. They really had a clear philosophy from early on.
Oh, yeah.
But plus all those ways Toyota's had an impact beyond just, cars on the road.
I think some people might be surprised by that, It goes way beyond just cars.
Now, I know this sounds like, a lot to cover. It's a huge topic.
It is, but don't worry.
Don't worry, we'll break it down. We're going to pull out the most insightful, the surprising...
The juicy bits, right?
The interesting stuff, the really interesting stuff.
The things that'll stick with you.
Okay, let's start at the very beginning.
With the guy who started it all.
With the man who essentially made Toyota happen.
You have to start with Kiichiro Toyoda. But you can't really understand him without knowing about his father, Sakichi.
The Toyota family.
Right, this was not your, average family. Sakichi was a straight-up genius.
Known as the king of Japanese inventors.
Right, exactly. And his claim to fame, the automatic power loom, a total game changer for the textile industry.
So that drive to invent, to build, it was in Kiichiro's blood right from the start.
Oh, absolutely. It was part of his DNA. But he didn't just inherit it.
Yeah.
He actually, I guess you could say he nurtured it,
Yeah. He actually went and studied mechanical engineering at Tokyo Imperial University.
Wow, that's a prestigious place.
And then he dives right into the family business.
Which at that time was?
Toyota Automatic Loom Works.
Right. Making those looms his dad was famous for. But you can kind of imagine, even then, a young Kiichiro's looking beyond just looms.
Yeah, seeing this bigger picture. Like, what else can we build? What else is out there?
And this is where his vision, his foresight, really comes into play. He saw a pretty glaring problem. Japan back then, they were completely reliant on imported automobiles. They weren't making their own.
And I guess for a guy who's, deep into engineering, that must have seemed like a huge opportunity.
Oh, was. Not just an economic opportunity, but a matter of national pride, I think. He was convinced that for Japan to really compete on the world stage, they needed their own thriving car industry.
So this isn't just some abstract idea.
Yeah.
He actually takes action. In 1929, he goes on this pivotal trip to the U.S. and Europe. Picture this. He's walking through the Ford factories, the General Motors plants.
The giants of the auto industry at that time, basically.
He's observing everything, how they're mass-producing cars, the whole assembly line process that Henry Ford pioneered.
The thing about Kiichiro, he was a sponge for knowledge. Absorbing everything, taking notes, analyzing, really thinking about how to apply it back in Japan.
And he's not just looking at the cars themselves, right? He's also studying the way these companies are structured, how they manage so many different models.
The whole business side of things.
These trips were like the foundation for what he was going to build with Toyota.
Absolutely. They were formative, He saw what worked, what didn't, and started forming his own ideas.
It's incredible how, an innovation in one field can completely spark something new in another. And here's where things take a really interesting turn. Sakichi, the father, the loom expert,
The king of Japanese inventors.
makes a big move. He sells the patent rights for his automatic loom to a British company called Platt Brothers.
Wow, that must have been a huge deal back then.
£1,000,000.
That's a lot of money.
A ton of money for the time. Millions of dollars in today's money.
And this is where Kiichiro's, I don't know, his persuasiveness, his ability to convince people, that's where it really shines.
Yeah, he sees this as the golden ticket, the chance to make his dream a reality.
So what did you do?
He goes to the leadership at Toyota Loom Works and says, hey, let's take this £1,000,000 and start building cars.
That's a big leap. From looms to cars. It's not a natural transition, is it?
It was a gamble. It was a huge risk.
But they went for it.
They did. And that decision in 1933 leads to the creation of the automotive department within Toyota Loom Works.
It's like this little offshoot, right?
Yeah.
But with huge ambitions.
And they moved fast.
How fast are we talking?
2 years later, 1935,
2 years.
they've got a passenger car, the Toyota A1, and a truck, the G1, ready to go.
It's lightning speed for developing a car from scratch, especially back then.
And then in 1936, they unveiled the Toyota AA, their first car meant for the public.
This is them officially becoming a car company, right?
Exactly. And the next year, 1937, Toyota Motor Corporation is officially born, a separate company now.
With Kiichiro at the helm.
President Kiichiro Toyoda. And they didn't just stick with the family name, they changed it slightly. From Toyota to Toyota.
Interesting. It seems like a small change. Was there a reason behind that?
Oh yeah, very deliberate. Toyota is actually easier to say in Japanese. It just rolls off the tongue a bit better.
Makes sense from a branding perspective.
And get this, when you write Toyota in katakana, that's one of the Japanese writing systems.
Right.
It takes 8 strokes to write.
8.
And 8 is like a lucky number in Japan.
So they're incorporating, I guess, a bit of good luck right into the name.
They're bringing that good fortune in from the start. So Kiichiro's got his company, he's president, he's got the vision, but the world's about to throw a pretty big wrench in the works.
World War II.
World War II completely changes everything.
What happens to Toyota during the war?
They're forced to switch gears. They start building military trucks for the Japanese army.
And not passenger cars anymore.
Not anymore. It's a wartime economy.
Right.
And after the war, Japan's devastated.
The whole country's trying to rebuild.
And Toyota's in a really rough spot. They're almost bankrupt.
Wow, really?
They're struggling to get the materials they need, the money they need. They have to lay off workers.
And that obviously, I'm guessing, led to some tension, right?
It leads to major labor strikes in 1950.
Oof. So they're facing an existential crisis at this point.
And Kiichiro, in an incredible act of, selflessness.
What does he do?
He steps down as president.
He resigns.
Yeah. He figures maybe someone else can navigate these really tough times.
So he sacrifices himself, essentially, for the good of the company.
But even though he's not leading the company day to day anymore, his ideas, the core philosophies he'd instilled, they stayed.
They became part of the company's DNA.
Exactly. And 2 of his biggest ideas, they essentially formed the basis for what became the Toyota production system.
TPS, right. The thing everyone in manufacturing talks about, even today.
So what exactly is TPS? Break it down for us.
It's about being super efficient, making sure the quality is top-notch, and doing it all with minimal waste.
Okay, so how do they actually achieve that? What are the key elements?
It's built on a few key things. One is lean manufacturing, which is all about cutting out any step or process that's not absolutely necessary. No waste, no fluff.
Streamlined, super efficient.
Exactly. Then you've got just-in-time production. This one's really clever. Instead of building up huge stockpiles of parts, they only make what they need when they need it.
So they don't have warehouses full of stuff just sitting around.
Exactly. Cuts down on storage costs, and it makes the whole process more adaptable to changes.
Makes sense. And the third pillar?
Quality control. But not just at the end of the line, like some kind of afterthought.
Built in from the start.
At every single stage. Every worker is responsible for quality. It's a cultural thing.
And it works.
Oh, it works.
Yeah.
Look at their reputation for reliability. That's a direct result of TPS.
So even as Toyota's going through these incredibly tough times, Kiichiro's basically laid the groundwork for their future success.
Yeah, he planted the seeds.
Sadly, he didn't get to see it all unfold. He passed away in 1952.
How old was he?
57. Way too young.
A real visionary.
Okay, so we've got the basics. August 28, 1937, the company's born.
Kiichiro Toyoda, president.
Headquartered in what's now literally called Toyota City.
I mean, that says it all, doesn't it?
And today, they're everywhere.
Over 170 countries, if I remember correctly.
But that journey to becoming this global powerhouse, it wasn't like, an overnight thing.
There were bumps along the way, right?
For sure. Their first attempt to crack the U.S. market in 1957 with the Toyota Crown didn't really go as planned. Sales were pretty slow.
I guess American buyers weren't quite ready to embrace a Japanese car brand back then.
But then, boom, 1966. The Toyota Corolla.
Oh, the Corolla. It's legendary, isn't it?
This car became an absolute icon. It's officially the world's best-selling car, over 50 million sold.
50 million. It's mind-boggling.
And I think it's that combination of reliability and affordability that just, resonated with people all over the world.
It's the car that, so many people learned to drive in.
And then you've got the 1970s, the oil crisis hits.
Oh, yeah. Gas prices skyrocketed.
And suddenly, Toyota's fuel-efficient cars are looking very attractive.
Makes sense. People are scrambling for ways to save money on gas.
And it really helped them expand even more globally throughout that decade.
It was the perfect storm, in a way, right? The world needed what Toyota was offering.
It's like their whole philosophy of efficiency, lean manufacturing, it aligned perfectly with what people needed at that time.
Exactly.
And it's not just in the auto industry.
TPS, that whole system.
It's had a huge impact on, pretty much every type of manufacturing you can think of.
Electronics, aerospace. I've even heard of hospitals using it.
It's that focus on eliminating waste, constantly improving. It's almost a philosophy as much as it is a production system.
And it really took hold in the 80s and 90s, right?
They're expanding like crazy, building factories all over the world.
They're not just selling cars, but actually making them in those markets.
One really interesting move was their partnership with General Motors in 1984. They formed this joint venture, created the NMMI plant in California.
So they're actually working directly with an American giant. What was the thinking behind that?
It was this fascinating exchange of ideas, really. Toyota wanted to get a deeper understanding of American manufacturing practices, the labor relations side of things.
And GM, I guess they were hoping to learn some of the secrets of TPS.
Exactly. They wanted to see how Toyota was achieving such efficiency and quality.
It's like they're both trying to get an edge, learn from each other's strengths.
Then in 1989, Toyota makes another big move. They launch Lexus, their luxury brand.
Going head-to-head with the established luxury players, huh?
Especially the Germans, the Mercedes, the BMWs.
And they come out swinging with the Lexus LS400.
This car was a statement. It was like, hey, we can build luxury too, and maybe even better.
That was their flagship. And it was a hit, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. It set a new standard for luxury, not just in terms of features and comfort, but in reliability.
They were really going after that perceived weakness of some of the European luxury brands, which, had a reputation for maybe not being as dependable.
But Toyota didn't stop there.
No.
1997, the Prius.
The first mass-produced hybrid car. That was a huge moment.
It was a gamble. Hybrids were, they weren't really a thing yet.
But they were betting on the future. They were saying, this is where the world is going.
And you know what? They were right. Fast forward to 2008, and they become the world's largest automaker, overtaking General Motors.
Wow, that's symbolic, isn't it?
It's huge. And by 2012, they'd sold over 4 million hybrids. They were all in on this sustainable future.
And today, they're not slowing down. They're investing in electric vehicles, hydrogen fuel cells, self-driving cars. They're exploring every option.
They're covering all their bases. Let's talk about that innovation a bit more. We've got the Prius, the Mirai, which runs on hydrogen, and now the BZ4X, their electric SUV.
They're not putting all their eggs in one basket, which is smart.
They're hedging their bets.
Exactly. Because who knows what's going to be the dominant technology in 10, 20 years.
But one thing that's remained constant, this foundational element, is that Toyota production system. It's still considered the gold standard in manufacturing.
And not just in the car industry. It's everywhere now.
It's that focus on eliminating waste, on having really strict quality control, on always getting better, even in tiny increments.
Continuous improvement.
Exactly.
It's amazing how that philosophy has spread.
Plus, they're making big strides in safety, too. The whole Toyota Safety Sense suite of features, the driver assistance systems, they're really pushing the boundaries there.
And they're heavily invested in autonomous driving. That's the future, isn't it?
They want to be a part of that, for sure.
It makes sense, if you think about it.
They've got a presence in over 170 countries, major factories all over the world. Their top-selling models, the Corolla, the Camry, the Hilux pickup truck, I mean, those are household names almost everywhere.
Global dominance.
Yeah.
And they're not just focused on profits. They're serious about sustainability, about making their operations carbon neutral.
2050, that's their target.
Ambitious? But, I mean, they've shown they can achieve big goals.
Okay, let's shift gears. Let's talk racing. Toyota GAZOO Racing, or TGR.
This is where things get really exciting, don't they?
This isn't just about slapping a logo on a car and hoping for the best.
Oh, no, it's way more than that.
It's woven into their entire engineering philosophy, right?
Absolutely. TGR, which they officially formed in 2015, but it really started as GAZOO Racing back in 2007.
That name, GAZOO, it sounds kind of quirky, right?
It does. It does.
I was curious about that. It actually comes from the Japanese word gazu, which means image or garage. It refers to an early online platform Toyota had where they were showcasing cars and stuff.
Interesting. So it's got this digital origin.
And it was all about pushing boundaries, testing technology in the real world.
Making their cars better by racing them.
Exactly. And one of the places they did that was the Nürburgring 24 hours race in Germany.
That's like the ultimate test for a car.
Yeah.
24 hours of nonstop punishment.
And they were throwing Lexus LFAs and Toyota Altesas into that cauldron.
Wow, talk about trial by fire.
They were gathering data, figuring out what works, what breaks, how to make things more durable.
That's the philosophy, right? Roads build people, and people build cars.
Exactly. And it was around that time that they started developing these high-performance GR models, like the Toyota 86 GRMN.
Limited edition track-focused stuff.
But then they made a bigger commitment. 2012, they're back in the big leagues of endurance racing, the FIA World Endurance Championship.
WEC.
WEC. And they're going all in with a hybrid car, the TIA 030 hybrid.
They were serious.
Serious about winning, serious about developing new technologies.
And that rebranding in 2015 to Toyota GAZOO Racing, that really brought all their motorsport activities under one umbrella.
Unified, strategic.
And then the comeback everyone was waiting for. They're back in the World Rally Championship, WRC, in 2017.
With the Yaris WRC.
Yeah.
And they start racking up wins, championship titles.
It's like they'd never left.
But the big one, the ultimate prize in endurance racing, is the 24 hours of Le Mans.
The legendary Le Mans.
And finally, in 2018, they did it. They won.
With the TS050 hybrid,
Yeah.
a hybrid car winning Le Mans. That's a statement, isn't it?
It's a huge statement.
Yeah.
And they didn't stop there. 2021, they unveil a hydrogen-powered Corolla race car.
They're constantly innovating, pushing the boundaries.
They're showing that sustainability and performance can go hand in hand.
And their dominance in WRC and WEC continues. It's incredible to see.
Let's dive into some of those racing series. In the World Rally Championship, their GR Yaris Rally 1 is an absolute beast.
It's tearing up the stages, winning championships left and right.
They got the constructors' titles, the drivers' titles. It's a dominant force.
And that car, the GR Yaris, I mean, they sell a road-going version of it.
Yeah, it's the real deal.
You can get a taste of that rally car experience in a car you can actually drive on the street.
And in the WEC, those endurance races, including Le Mans, they've been unstoppable from 2018 through 2023.
6 Le Mans wins in a row. That's unheard of.
Their current car, the GR010 Hybrid, a hypercar designed for those grueling 24-hour races.
It's a technological marvel.
And then there's the Dakar Rally. The brutality of that race, it's just incredible.
Driving thousands of miles across deserts, mountains, everything you can imagine.
And Toyota, with their DKR Hilux T1 Plus ISA, they've won it multiple times, including some recent back-to-back victories.
They've mastered that race, it seems. They figured out how to build a car that can take that kind of punishment.
And the Nürburgring, it's not always about winning there.
It's more about testing.
Yeah, pushing their cars to the limit, learning how to make them better.
That's where they refined the LFA, the Supra, the GR Yaris, all those amazing cars.
That philosophy, roads build people and people build cars, it really sums up their approach.
It's about learning from the toughest conditions, from the drivers who are pushing the cars to their absolute limits.
And then taking that knowledge and putting it into the cars we can all drive.
That's the beauty of it.
And that brings us to their GR road car lineup. The GR Yaris, the GR Corolla, the GR Supra, the GR 86, even those super limited GRMN models.
They're taking their racing heritage and injecting it into their road cars.
It's not just about badges and stickers. These cars are genuinely fun to drive.
And they're looking to the future, too. Electrification, hydrogen, they're exploring it all in racing.
They want to be at the forefront of sustainable motorsport.
They're not just content with winning now. They're thinking about what racing will look like in 10, 20 years.
They're expanding their GR lineup too, maybe even some electric GR cars in the future.
Who knows what they'll come up with next?
Now, there's one chapter in Toyota's racing history that's a bit, well, bittersweet.
Formula One.
Formula One, the pinnacle of motorsport. They were there from 2002 to 2009 with their own team, Panasonic Toyota Racing.
They went in with huge ambitions, right?
They announced it back in 1999. They were building their own chassis, their own engine, the whole 9 yards.
That's a massive undertaking.
Yeah.
Not many teams do both the chassis and the engine.
They invested a ton of money, built this incredible facility in Cologne, Germany. They even spent a couple of years just testing before their official debut.
So they were meticulous in their preparation.
They wanted to make sure they were ready.
And their first race, the 2002 Australian Grand Prix, they actually did pretty well. Mika Salo finished 6th and got some championship points.
It was a promising start, but it didn't really translate into consistent results.
The next few seasons were tough. They were stuck in the midfield, not really challenging for wins.
They went through some leadership changes, brought in some new engineers, but they couldn't seem to crack the code.
Formula One is a different beast, isn't it?
It's so competitive, the margins are tiny, and it's as much about strategy and development as it is about raw speed.
And you need the right drivers, too, the ones who can consistently extract the maximum from the car.
Their best season was probably 2005. They had Ralf Schumacher and Jarno Trulli driving for them, and they got 5 podium finishes.
So close, but no cigar.
They finished 4th in the championship, but they just couldn't get that win.
It must have been frustrating.
The next 2 years, 2006 and 2007, they were up and down, inconsistent. They brought in Timo Glock, a young driver with a lot of potential, but they were still spending huge amounts of money without getting the results they wanted.
And then the financial crisis hit.
Yeah, 2008, 2009, the world's economy is in a tailspin. And Toyota, they're looking at their F1 program and thinking, is this worth it?
They'd poured so much into it, but hadn't achieved that ultimate goal.
They were close in 2009. Their car, the TF109, was their best yet. Trulli got a 2nd place in Bahrain. Glock got 2nd in Singapore.
Agonizingly close.
But no win.
So they pull the plug.
They withdraw from Formula One at the end of 2009.
It's a tough decision, but from a business perspective, it probably made sense.
And they did leave a mark on F1 in a way. They were a successful engine supplier for other teams, and they helped launch the career of Kamui Kobayashi, who became quite a popular driver.
In all that engineering knowledge they gained, it undoubtedly fed back into their road car development, especially their hybrid systems.
But that lack of a race win, it definitely hangs over their F1 story.
It's the one thing that's missing from their record.
Some say it was their strategic decisions, the way they developed the car, maybe not always having the absolute top drivers.
Formula One is about getting every detail right, and they just couldn't quite put it all together.
But now there are rumors swirling. With the new F1 engine regulations coming in 2026, with the focus on hybrid power, there's talk of Toyota coming back.
It would make sense, wouldn't it? They're the hybrid kings.
And F1 is all about global reach, about pushing technological boundaries.
And their rivals, Honda,
Sure.
are coming back to F1
Right.
with Aston Martin. Maybe there's a bit of national pride there too, you know.
So if they were to come back, what would it look like? Would they be an engine supplier for an existing team, or would they go all out and have their own full works team again?
It could be either, really. Supplying engines is a good way to get back in, less risky financially. They could partner with someone like Williams or Haas, who need a strong engine partner.
But a full works team? That would be a statement.
It would show they're serious about winning, but they'd need the right leadership, the right structure to avoid the mistakes of the past.
There's also the Audi model, where they're partnering with Sauber, integrating themselves more deeply into an existing team.
That's a smart approach, too.
Timing is everything. 2026, with those new regulations, that seems like the obvious entry point.
But they might be more cautious. They might wait and see how things shake out, maybe target a return a few years later, 2028, 2029, something like that.
Starting as an engine supplier, then maybe expanding later, like Honda did.
It's all speculation at this point. Toyota hasn't officially said anything.
From the smooth tarmac of F1 to the rugged terrain of the Dakar Rally, Toyota's shown they can handle it all.
6 wins in the Dakar, that's a serious achievement.
Their early years there, it was mostly private teams using Toyotas because of their legendary reliability.
But then they went all in with a factory team in 2012.
The Toyota Hilux Dakar Rally truck, this beast of a machine.
And they almost won right away.
They were always there, always in contention, but the breakthrough, it came in 2019.
With Nasser Al-Attiyah at the wheel.
That guy is a legend. And they kept winning, 2022, 2023.
Even this year, 2024, they won their class. Audi got the overall win with their electric car, but Toyota showed they're still a force to be reckoned with.
That Hilux, the T1 Plus Orem, it's incredible.
Tell us about it.
It's got a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6, over 400 horsepower.
Wow.
And it weighs 210s.
It's a monster.
But it can fly across the desert over 170 kilometers per hour.
They don't mess around.
And they're not standing still. They're developing a hydrogen-powered truck for the Dakar.
They're pushing the boundaries, showing that alternative fuels can compete in the toughest races.
They're aiming for 2026 to 2030 to debut that truck.
They're going to face stiff competition, though. Audi, ProDrive, they're all innovating.
It's going to be an exciting new era for the Dakar.
Definitely.
Okay, final stop on our Toyota racing tour, Super Formula in Japan.
Japan's top single-seater series.
And Toyota's been involved for a long time as both an engine supplier and a team owner.
They've been dominant, haven't they?
They were a major player in the previous series, Formula Nippon, with their RV8J engine.
That was back in the early 2000s.
And when it transitioned,